What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Go to Trades, and I'm back with a Straw Hat Trading Channel. And we're back for the weekly analysis videos for the week ahead, so that you are prepared for the stock market this week. Okay, I've been hosting this channel for about I guess a month now, like maybe 2 months. I don't know, maybe a month and a half, and I feel like now that when I do my intros, I feel more comfortable. I don't know if you guys peeped, but lately, since if you guys been watching me from the beginning compared to now, I was kind of uncomfortable, but now I feel a little bit more comfortable talking to you guys. We've been getting a lot of support on the channel, and let's just keep up the momentum. We're at like 30 something subscribers. That's awesome. Let's get to 100 before March is over. Anyways, guys, the stock market has actually done some interesting things, to say the least. But before we get into it, let's get to the usuals, get to the basics. Let's look at the weekly stock heat map of the S&P 500 and the sectors, right? So as we can see, the tech sector looked a little bit weak when it comes to last week. We've seen a lot of weakness within the market. Most notably, we've seen Tesla dropping almost 13%. We've seen Apple, of course, being weak as usual since the year started. And we've been seeing some pockets of red, not really from the week, but for like the last few days of the session with Nvidia and AMD, and just some names that's been running throughout this whole run. So just pretty notable to put that out there that yes, the market is starting to look a little bit soft, but is it time to sell? We'll get to it. Anyways, the health sector looked pretty decent. Obviously, we have a little bit of pockets of red. Finance looks really good, so you could tell that there are still some risk on assets, and we already know crypto's going crazy. Manufacturing starting to get some rotation in there. Energy, utilities. So we're starting to see defensive get some love. So that's something that you always got to pay attention to. We also see consumer non-durables get some love as well. When you see these defensive names get love, that's when you want to kind of okay, big money is hedging. Why are they hedging? Okay, so that's something to be paid attention to. Does that mean it's the end of the world? No, but it's just something to pay attention to. So we have a very important week this week. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, we have core CPI and CPI year over year. This is going to be very important. As you guys know, CPI is a gauge for inflation, and that is one of the readings that Fed Chair Powell uses to make decisions on whether he's going to cut or raise rates. So that is very important. So on Tuesday, that is going to be something to put on your calendar. Wednesday, we don't have anything, but that'll be exactly 1 week before FOMC. I told you guys last week, the last time we were at 1 week before FOMC on a rising wedge channel like we are in now in this rally, we actually sold off. Not saying we're going to sell off on Wednesday, but hey, we started to see some weakness, okay? Anyways, Thursday, we also have PPI. Core PPI is going to be very important as well, and that will be basically the last major data point to come out before FOMC. So this is going to be a very important week. This is going to be kind of a snapshot for what's to come. And of course, next week we have FOMC on Wednesday, March 20th. This is going to be very, 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 very important. Next, let's go to the earnings report. So earnings, not really that much of a deal breaker for the market. One earnings report that I'm actually watching for is Adobe, and I'm kind of a little bit interested in SentinelOne. SentinelOne is another cybersecurity name. Now people are starting to talk about cybersecurity might be the next cash cow. And yeah, cybersecurity, SentinelOne. This is something to pay attention to. Now, do I have an opinion on it? If I think it's going to miss or beat, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. But that's just something to pay attention to. Adobe. Adobe is one of my favorite companies. If any of you guys know me, I love Adobe. That's if I were to work for a company, as an engineer, I would want to do for Adobe. And I think Adobe has a very clear path in terms of generative AI. That's one of the biggest AI branches, in my opinion, that has the most commercial lucrative advantages. So generative AI, just a little, I don't want to talk too much about it. Maybe I might make a video about it, but generative AI is basically using AI to make content, multimedia content, whether that's pictures, photos, paintings, music, you name it, videos, visuals, whatever, you name it. So I do believe that Adobe can be a pioneer in this space and they've already said that they're trying to do that. They already incorporated it with their Adobe features such as Photoshop and Premiere. So their earnings report, we're just gonna have to see. Personally, I'm fundamentally bullish on it, but we'll have to see. I don't know. If I were to guess if it was gonna beat or miss, I'd say beat personally. But again, that's speculative. I have no like don't listen, that's just speculative, okay? So next we got the dollar and the yields, right? So we finally got this break. I've been waiting for this break. If you guys been keeping up to date with this channel, I've been waiting for this break. We've been waiting for this break. We finally got this break, and now we are landing where buyers want to sit. So what does that mean? Why did I care about getting that break on a dollar? Okay, so the reason why I care is because right here I'd expect buyers to step up on a dollar, right? And this is going to basically, when a dollar moves, it's not really okay. This is what my chat kind of get confused a little bit with a dollar. Just because the dollar is going up or down doesn't necessarily mean that the stock market is going to go vice versa. You know what I'm saying? That's not necessarily what it is. It's really the price action of the dollar. So when the price action of the dollar is hitting support and then you're making your move up, that's when the market goes down. You know what I'm saying? So that price action decides the price action of the market. So in this case, I'd expect until we get to this level, to this 103.790 level, until we get around here. So we do something like this. Until we get up here, I am bearish in this market. Once we test this level here, then I could start looking at some bullish setups, because here we have a head and shoulders pattern forming right here. Not only that, remember this blue like trend line here. This is major resistance on a monthly, weekly level. So if I show you, this creates a descending triangle pattern, which is super bearish, where ultimately you end up breaking down off your support zone, which is like right here in this green line. So if you actually break down here, so eventually we should get a test down here. If you actually do get a break, then you should see some continuation down to like maybe your lower end of this like cup that had formed right here. So like around this demand area of $97 to $98. That's what I'm looking for, right? So that's what I'm looking for the dollar, but that's like more down the line. But for the short term, I'm looking for buyers to step you back up and retest this 103.79 to 103.63. Until you get that retest, I'm bearish. So once we get this retest, I can kind of get more bullish in the market and expect that the dollar is gonna sell. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm looking for. Next, of course, we got the yields. Honestly, this looks like a head and shoulders as well on the weekly chart, like the weekly monthly chart. Let me go ahead and put on the highlighter. So of course you have your shoulder, head, shoulder. Okay. So this is pretty important to note. We could just be selling off. Like we could probably maybe sell off to about maybe on a retest of this 33.7%, 3.9%. However, if we actually do, because remember, this is a falling wedge pattern here. Same thing with the DXY. Like these are falling wedge patterns. So if we actually do get a break above this falling wedge, we come back to retest, find support here, and come back up, we could be breaking out. We could be breaking out on the yields, okay? However, if you continue breaking down, if you actually just continue breaking down, I expect like the market should be like in a euphoric state. Like we should just be going to the moon at that point. But if that doesn't happen, then obviously the alternative case is we're gonna sell off. So there's a lot of scenarios that could happen, but one of the brightest things about this price action from last week is we got some type of movement. Now we just been moving sideways for a while, guys. Like it's been even kind of hard for me because I use the dollar and the yields as like, you know, my sentiment, you know. So when the dollar is just moving sideways like this, it's really hard to trade, like really hard. The last time this happened was in October. Remember what happened in October? In October, let's put side by side so you can see it, right? So what happened in October was over here on the NASDAQ, right? What happened in October, as you can see, the dollar was going sideways from September to October. Now, I remember when this happened, like around September, October, I've gotten false readings of like bullish action, right? Of a reversal. I remember getting a false reading right here that it's time to go back up, right? And we end up going up and then coming right back down. And, you know, that's when I'm like, oh, wow, like, I think the market might actually continue going down. And that's when we actually got the dollar breaking out of this like sideways action here. Once the dollar actually broke out, let me go ahead and draw a rectangle so you can see it. So when the dollar actually broke out of this sideways action right here, once it actually broke out of this action, you can see it that NQ actually got some follow through. You know what I'm saying? So NQ actually got follow through to that reversal. So I end up getting faked out. So that's kind of the same action that I see here, right? Where we go sideways for however much. We've been going sideways since February and a little bit into March. Now we're getting that reversal potentially, right? So now we're potentially getting that reversal. So let me go ahead and show you on the brush tool. So we're potentially, if we are going sideways here, this whole time we've gotten this fake out to the downside, just like how to fake out to the upside in September, and then we continue and we actually would, you know, change of trend. So maybe that's the same thing that I'm looking for the US dollar and NQ, maybe, but I don't know. It's only time could tell with this market. It's kind of hard to just like predict what's going to happen. Like you can't really predict what's gonna happen. All you can really do is just follow the price action and use the levels, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But you know, risk management. Now, before I get into each of these charts, I do want to say, like, from a wide view, right? Let's look at ES and NQ from a wide view. From a wide view, when you look at these charts, they don't really look that bearish. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't really look that bearish. Ignore this candle because where I'm starting on the video, the overnight session is beginning. But you don't look that bearish. Like, just looking at these candles, like, you don't look that bearish. It looked like you just broke out and you're retesting. It looked like you broke out and now you're retesting. It doesn't look that bearish. However, when you actually zoom in on these charts, they look a little bit more concerning. Just a little bit more concerning, okay? So here, when you zoom in on NQ, one thing that there's to note is that we have a clear supply zone up here, a very clear supply zone. And once we made that supply zone, once we made the supply zone on the at the top, we came back to retest this like control area, this area of control that we've established for the February highs. And once we came to retest it, my initial thought was we're gonna get buyers. That was my initial thought. So when we came up here and we came down, I just expect buyers. This area of the control, we've been this is basically our say so if we're bullish or not. So once we actually rejected this area and we continue going down, I'm like, okay, maybe this move lower might actually just be a real move lower. So as we got that move lower, we came back down to the support, to a demand zone, came right back up, and we retest this area of control. Once I noticed that we couldn't get back over this, what is this? This 18403. Once we couldn't get back over, I knew that, okay, this might not just be a regular buy the dip. This might just have some follow through momentum to the downside. Okay. So it looks like at this point that the NASDAQ is really trying to test this demand area, this demand zone from the NVIDIA earnings. So why does that matter, right? The NVIDIA earnings gap, that really displayed strength within the market, right? So before the NVIDIA happened, we came up and we came back down in the consolidation matter. It was just a little flag. We end up flagging, right? And when we flag and touch this demand zone left from the NVIDIA gap, we end up rallying, right? We end up rallying back up here, came back down to retest it, rally again. So that is a very important sign. This is an area of control that I've been noticing So if we end up losing this area of control, and notice it's right above the January high. So if we lose this area and we end up coming down under 18,042, we end up coming down, then we are in a pretty dangerous spot, to say the least. That's pretty dangerous, and a lot of people, I think they're kind of, gonna get spooked. You know what I'm saying? Like, even right now, people are kind of spooked, and they're like, are we gonna crash? I don't think we're gonna crash, but we are setting up for something. We are definitely setting up for something, and maybe just a close below this area would be very telling. So if we get a close below this area, that is very telling. A close below this January high, I would be concerned. And if we actually hold under, then you have a lot of room to the downside. So if you hold under this demand zone here, you have a lot of room to either your January close, which you're in the middle of a range here. Like, I wouldn't be a buyer here, because at that point you're just gonna find buyers to set you right back up into this supply zone, and maybe you might go even lower to your January open to this buy zone area. So maybe that's what I'm looking for at the moment. This is what I see is likely if we actually break down below this NVIDIA demand zone and we hold below. However, if, let's say for some miracle, right, we actually start rallying, right? If we rally and we just, come down here, we find buyers, then obviously your next point of control would be this 18,403. This is where I expect sellers to try again. And if sellers fail, then you're going to keep going. You're just going to take out highs. However, if sellers actually succeed, same thing. I do believe you're going to retest this demand zone and probably just go lower. So right now, I do think that on the shorter term, bears do have the edge, and just be careful in these markets. Just pretty much just be careful. Next thing with ES, it's kind of similar, but ES is just a little bit more bullish, just a little bit more. So you came up to this this upper channel, right? You came up to this upper channel here. You end up rejecting, creating like this kind of this bearish candlestick here. And it looks like you might have some more continuation to the downside. I do believe on both ES and NQ, you look like you're going to get some more continuation to the downside. And it looks like you're either targeting, if I were to look on a weekly chart, it looks like you're targeting around, let's see, if you open up, it looks like you're targeting around 5164. If you break down below 5164, 5165, you break down below and you hold, you do have some room to the downside. Okay. So if you actually do end up breaking down here below 5165, you end up breaking down below that, then you do have this demand zone right here. This is a pretty solid demand zone. You've bounced off of it twice already. So if you do find buyers here to step you back up, you could just retest this supply zone that you just initiated from the beginning of March. So you could just come up here and either break and rally, or you could come up there and actually fail and retest, kind of similar to NQ. And again, if you break down below this area, if you break down below this 5100 area, look, you have a lot of room to 5020. You have a lot of room to 5020. Okay, and that's where I see buyers actually trying to bring you back up. So I say all this to say this, guys. If you guys just want to know if I am bullish or bearish right now in these markets, personally, I think that there's more risk to the upside at this point until you get some type of confirmation, right? I feel like at this point, you are going to start off the week selling. And maybe you might even sell the whole week, And my guess is, depends how aggressive this move is. If this move to the downside is extra aggressive, if it's extra aggressive, then I'd be concerned. If it's not that aggressive, then you're good. Now let's go to the RTY and Dow Jones, and I'm just going to be brief with this. I believe that you are setting up to sell on RTY. You hit your extremes up here at 2100, and not only that, you also like rejected straight off the supply zone. And if I were to zoom in here, let me go ahead and, if I were to zoom in and go to the daily chart, you could definitely see that you had this uptrend. You end up breaking out this uptrend, you retest, you break back above, and now you can't hold it. So if this uptrend is holding as a point of resistance, as long as you stay below this uptrend, then you should be trying to retest down over here. This retest of 2050 is what I'm looking for, and I might start becoming a buyer here. And you have another zone to buy here at 2030. So you do have some steps, you do have some buying area for small and mid cap names, and that's what I'm looking for. I might want to get into coin or MSTR at that point. The Dow Jones also looks pretty bearish. I think out of all the charts, Dow Jones looked the most bearish in my opinion. You broke out of this rising wedge. I told you guys that that is setting up for something nasty. And if I were to zoom in, you have these daily rejections, 3 daily rejections in a row. It looks like you're about to just sell. It looks like it's about time for the Dow Jones. And if you guys notice, the Dow Jones has actually been the strongest, well, the most rigid of the indexes. Like even on selling days on the Dow Jones, it wasn't, or selling weeks, it really is very minuscule, very, very minuscule. You had more selling pressure on NQ and ES. This was very minuscule. So I would be looking at names like BA, names, these industrial names. I'll be looking to sell some of those. So that's what I'm looking for. And when we get into the tech charts, I'm going to kind of move a little bit faster. I think I'm at the 20-minute mark already. I told you guys I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with you guys. So yeah, these videos are getting longer. Maybe I should get uncomfortable. I don't know. Anyways, look guys, your big tech chart looks filthy. This looks filthy. On a weekly, it looks like an indecision candle, but it does lean more to the bearish side. Look at this rejection wick. This is nasty, right? And I was warning my chat that up here, you don't really want to go long up here. You just don't, because it's not optimal. You know what I'm saying? It's just not optimal. Now, I wouldn't say like go completely short until you get confirmation, but you know, at this point, the only thing you can really do is just tackle options, like some put options when it's all the way up here, and you know, maybe when it's down here, maybe some calls. But how long will this last? At this point, what I see for big tech, obviously, I think there's going to be more continuation for downside in the market. And what I see right now is, again, depending on how aggressive this sell, if we actually do end up breaking down, right, you have a major demand area here, major demand area. So if you break down, you find support, you may just come back up and retest around this area here. This like area is your monthly extreme zone, right? This is like this area here. This is your monthly extreme zone. So we've been basing in this monthly extreme zone since the year started. So we've been due for some type of correction for a very long time. So if we actually close below this, like if we actually close below this February close, that's concerning, right? So if we come up and we find sellers up here, that makes sense. That might lead into another sell. And if we actually break this demand area, then look, we have so much room to the downside. Okay? So much room to the downside. Your next level of demand might just be in this area here, or it might just be in this area here. So it's like you have so much room for the downside on big tech. Like I just don't see us like going that higher. So what I'm watching for this scenario where we come back down, we find some buyers around this area here. What is this? This is around about your 2980. You find some buyers commence you back up, and sellers slam you right back down for that 3066 area. And if that actually does happen, you have a head and shoulders, and you know, you keep grinding lower. Again, you might have some buyers here. If buyers step back in, again, sellers should be able to bring you back lower. So that's what I'm watching. on big tech. Next, XOK looks pretty bullish in my opinion on the weekly. However, on the daily, again, you have a bearish engulfing on the daily. This is very bearish. It looks like you're going to have more continuation to the downside. If you end up losing this 204 level, then you have room all the way down to this 200-ish level, 200 to 198, and that doesn't sit good with me. However, you are in this box that you've been in since the beginning of what? You've been in this box since the beginning of January. So what I'm looking for is just a break outside of this box. Are we going to break higher and just continue higher? Like, are we going to break into the upside, or are we just going to go back down? So that's what I'm looking for. Right now, just XOK just doesn't look good in my opinion. Even though the chart isn't necessarily bearish, it's still a bullish chart because you're going higher. You know what I'm saying? You're going higher, but it's not optimal in my opinion. Y'all, like, we already have a lot of signs that we're gonna go lower, but I gotta see the velocity, how aggressive the XOK move lower is gonna be. Next, we got QQQ. Okay, QQQ looks decent. It looks decent. However, you are at the end of this rising wedge. I keep saying it every week. We are at the end, and we might look to sell soon. I'm not saying that it's going to be tomorrow. I'm not going to see it's going to be the next day. Obviously, I have my predictions, but they're just predictions. Price action guides everything. But right now, your 440 level is your key. You have to stay above your February close to February high. You got to stay above this area. If you don't get back above, and mind you, this daily is a bearish engulfing. So if you don't get back above, you are risking a lot of downside. Your downside is like a $10 downside from 440 all the way to about 430, 429. This is where your next level of demand is, right? And at this point, remember, if you break outside of this zone, you break outside and you hold outside of the zone, this is a reversal. So if we actually break outside of this 440, we come back, curl up, and we retest what we just broke out of, which is 440. We found some supply here. Then we could just continue going lower to this 414 area. Okay? So like I said, just like with big tech, this could look like this to be something to set up like for a bigger dump. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm watching for, and this is the head and shoulders pattern. So even let me make it a little bit cleaner, right? Let me take out the path tool real quick. Boom. So again, we break down here to this 430, come right back up to where our supply is, because at this point this will be supply. Remember, demand, once you break demand, it becomes supply. We retest the supply zone. We end up retesting the demand zone that was here. If we break down this demand zone due to current momentum, our next demand will be all the way down here to 415, right? And at that point, you have either two things that can happen. You can either retest here, continue going lower, or you could actually just retest up here and either, let me put out another tool, either continue going higher, or you could use that as momentum to keep going lower. It honestly, like, anything could happen at this point. That's what I'm saying. Like, this week and next week are going to be super important. I believe it's going to decide where we're going to go. Me personally, I'm leaning toward the downside. I do believe that coming next week, we might just see a reversal. Now, I'm not sure how deep this reversal is going to be. I'm not sure if it's going to be, if we're going to go, that far, but I don't think it's going to be something like this reversal is going to be like something like we're going all the way down to 300. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I do think we do have a lot more room especially on QQQ. We have a lot more room to the upside, like a lot more room. So we have room all the way to 500, guys. Like, we have room. So I don't think we're gonna like sell all the way, but I do think that we're gonna have some type of correction to give people, give bulls some more opportunity as well as bears some more opportunity. That's what I believe. Anyways, let's move on. We are almost at 30 minutes. This is probably my longest video. I'm so sorry, guys. Last group I want to go over is the chips. Now, weekly chips had a pretty nasty run. On the week, we had a bearish gravestone doji on all of these candles. XSD looks a little bit better. It looks more indecisive. But, yeah, you end up hitting this major resistance zone. I had to clean up my charts. If you guys notice, like, this is a different chart. It's just because we've been so bullish that we create a new trend. And SOX also looks bullish as well. But one thing to note on SOX, I just want to put out there, right? Ranges like to rotate, right? And we've had like this one range here. Super, and I know it's a long video, guys, but this is a very important week, and I have to let you guys know, like, everything I'm watching, because this is super important. And if you grasp what I'm saying and grasp my sentiment, you'll make money this week, I promise you. But anyways, look, we have this week, right? I mean, not this week, this month, like this area from September to October, we broke out of this channel here, and this was a false breakdown here. And this range, when we came back into our channel, it looks like it's trying to create the same, like, I guess, the same action here is what I believe, right? Where we break out of this range, and this range is rotating to this side. So that's why I have a circle. So this measured move, I believe, is going to be equivalent to the same measured move above our resistance line. This resistance line that we have right here. So I do believe that we do have more upside. I do think we have more upside on chips specifically. However, it's very limited. I do believe that it's very, very limited. And one thing that I'm looking for, personally, I'm not sure if I'm going to buy it or do it. But if you guys want to play Daredevil, you can. But I do believe that at this point, this stage, we are going to sell. We're going to start off selling, and we should find our way for this gap fill here. This gap fill is around 218. This is where I believe buyers are sitting. This 218 level, around there. I'm not sure when this is going to hit, but I do believe it's going to hit this week, and I do believe buyers are going to step in and propel you back up. I don't know if you're going to clear highs. You might clear highs, you might not, but I do believe buyers will step in. And remember, we do have a lot of momentum on the chips, so I wouldn't be surprised if we actually break highs here. Okay, so that's something that I'm watching for SOXX as well as SMH. They both are doing the same exact thing, and my confirmation is XSD, and I'm gonna show you why. So SMH, let's look at SMH. SMH, same thing. Let's go to the daily. If you continue to sell, you do have a potential buyer sitting here. I don't know why it's doing it in a straight line like this, but you do have potential buyer sitting here. You have potential buyer sitting at around like 216, 215, around there. If they do propel you higher, you could retest all-time highs, or you could just retest this this supply zone right here of 228. Still a decent move higher, but that's what I'm watching for. And my confirmation is here at XSD. If we look at XSD, I've been harping that we need to break this supply zone to go higher. We've been consolidating, even as Nvidia and all these chip names been going higher. We've been consolidating, and we finally got that break higher. Finally. Now, here's my thing. We created this ascending triangle where we have this supply zone here, but we keep making like these higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, and we finally break out. So now at this point, what I'm watching for is a retest of this now demand zone, and maybe we might just have one super explosive move higher. That's what I'm looking for. So when I say all that to say this, chips still look super bullish. Be careful trying to short the beast, okay? Short Nvidia and shorting SMCI, AVGL. It's be careful, because at this stage, you still like selling pressure here can still bring you higher. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it can definitely still bring you higher. Okay, so that's what I am watching for. Quickly, just some names that I'm also looking for the week. Let me go ahead and find it. I'm looking for BA for the downside. Here on BA, you are creating a descending triangle here, and you should be trying to go lower. You should be trying to break down here and retest this 185 level that you made, a demand area you made in October. And if you actually break that, you're going to the gutters. But yeah, I do believe you're going to get some type of bounce up here and then go down. But I do believe that Boeing is about to go to HE double hockey sticks. Next, I do have a couple more names to go over. Let's go over Netflix. I do like Netflix for the downside. Netflix here, you started your uptrend. Your downtrend here. Starting to trend lower. You are creating a potential head and shoulders here. So if you actually continue breaking down lower, you break this demand zone here, you do have room to 580, where I do believe that buyers will bring you back up. And again, your demand zone will act as supply, and you do have potential for a reversal all the way down to 430. But yeah, we're just gonna see what price action does, but that's what I'm watching for. We also have Microsoft here. Let me go over Microsoft real quick. Microsoft, you have been consolidating on a weekly basis. This looks like a potential flag that's forming, just a potential. So you could just be propelling higher. However, it does look like it can be losing steam here if Microsoft actually breaks down here, right? If Microsoft actually breaks down, so if I were to draw a trend line here, so if Microsoft actually breaks down here where we get some downside, we find some buyers and we break, yeah, that would be hectic right here. That would be a hectic move, and I do believe we have downside all the way down to 385. So those are really the names that I'm watching for next week. But if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. This has been your boy Go to Trades. Follow the Discord down below in the description. It's completely free. And yeah, I'm out. Have a very green and great rest of your week, guys. Peace.